West Pelzer's getting ready for spring and all kinds of other things. What's going on in West Pelzer?
Yeah, so West Pelzer is ready for spring, and we've been preparing for this for a year through COVID. We've learned a lot. We've learned how to communicate better. And so this year, the first thing you'll see, and it's due March the 9th, is our first poetry contest. And so we've been looking at art in our community for the past year with the Grand Gallery. With COVID, we weren't able to do some things, but we still wanted to engage those artists. And so we're looking at now with In Bloom and the poetry contest a different way to be or to express your artistic abilities here in West Pelzer. So that's the first thing that's going on.
How can people participate?
Yep. So you can go to our website to look online with the format and the requirements for how you submit. It can be submitted via email to westpelzerpoet@gmail.com, or it can be submitted in person. And so there are local gift cards for retail and restaurants that will be part of our first, second, and third place prizes. And you do not have to live in West Pelzer to submit, but we do ask that you live in the Tri-City area of Pelzer or Williamston as well. So we're starting to work a lot better together, and that's one opportunity for us to branch out. I think the other things you'll see moving through the spring as we get closer into the summer is that you're going to see us start to release our fall events, and it's really West Pelzer's time to shine with the traffic that Clemson University produces and the football games. And so you're going to see us start to get our arms around what post-COVID festivals will look like with our dog days of summer, with our vintage markets, and ultimately our Pumpkin Palooza and our Christmas parades. We're already planning for December now.
Well, remind people of Dog Days of Summer, because that people forget about that.
Yep. So Dog Days of Summer is super fun in that West Pelzer was founded on the premise of gambling, dogs, and alcohol. And Captain Smythe didn't allow any of the mill workers to have a dog. And so those that chose to have a canine as a friend came to what was called Frankville and ultimately West Pelzer in 1918 so that they could have a dog. And so this is one of our ways to kind of reach back into history and pull some of those fun aspects out of it. And so Dog Days of Summer is a dog show. We have a live band or a DJ. We have free giveaways, and really just another chance for the local community to be engaged within our 1 mile radius.
And since last time we talked, you've had some new businesses open.
So, so since the last time we've talked, we've had a lot of economic development opportunities kind of reach out to us, whether it would be residential development or commercial development. And so Moondog Art Cafe, or Coffee and Art Cafe, will be opening up next month. So a place to get your craft coffee, your drip pour coffee, but also participate in some local artwork.
And what else is growth-wise is going on in the town? I know coming through here in years gone by, I'd see a lot of for sale signs. I don't see many for sale signs anymore.
Yep. So our average days on the market in West Pelzer is about 72 hours for a residential home. And so what a lot of the agents are starting to do is that they're showing a home in Powdersville and then saying, well, I can get you the same home for maybe just a little bit cheaper in a community that has sidewalks, or where you can walk to your church or your faith-based worship, or I can take you to a tap room or walk to the grocery store. And so we have a little bit different characteristics than maybe a home in Powdersville or Piedmont would have. So for other residential opportunities, we're bound on our west side by a lot of open property, and we're starting to see a lot of developers that are showing interest in that property for new housing, and a lot of conversations about what's the annexation process, what's the zoning process, what's the building permitting process. And so we're having a lot of fun, both as a professional and also as a mayor, kind of ensuring that we have smart growth in West Pelzer. We've been 900 people for the past 100 years, and we do not want to explode to 9,000. We do not want to be a Traveler's Rest or a Powdersville or a Fountain Inn. We love what they're doing, but we want to be our own community and grow with what's smart with our current residents and businesses that are here.
And what else is on the table? What else have you got planned here for the months ahead?
So the months ahead are going to be really fun. We're stretching our boundaries maybe differently than people in West Pelzer have seen in the past. And so last month we leased, as part of a 10-year recurring lease, 8 acres along the Saluda River that are just outside of city limits called Riverfront West. And so we're going to be looking for grant opportunities and volunteer opportunities to take Riverfront West from an undeveloped wetland piece of property to our own mini Conestee. So we're looking at boardwalks, walking trails, picnic shelters, river access where we can complement what's going on in Piedmont and Powdersville and Pelzer, that we can be a part of that conversation. So I'm really excited that council decided to partner to do that. It was a unanimous vote to do so. And so for the next decade, you're going to see us develop that site just for more recreational opportunities that'll benefit our residents, but also the residents of northeastern Anderson County. The other thing we're starting to do is look at business incubation. And so one thing COVID taught us is that a lot of people have the ability to work from home. And so we're now trying to discuss with our residents and local businesses, those that were forced to work from home, how do we transition them back into a workplace but continue to give them that same flexibility? And so you're going to see us start talking a lot about co-working space, using some of our municipal facilities as some of that co-working space, or potentially even a business incubator out of our old town hall, which is adjacent to Chapman Park. And so we have discussed with multiple private funding partners and also just social partner, cultural partners in that to help develop businesses, to call that the nest. And so as we're a bird sanctuary, and that was one of our original ordinances, we want to continue to ingrain in that history, ingrain our local businesses, but then think about what COVID taught us and give them an opportunity to grow. So in end of 2021, you'll see the nest incubator continue to be developed and be a great partnership with our local communities of Pelzer, West Pelzer, but also Anderson County.
Before we get away from that, tell people what it means to be a bird sanctuary.
So a bird sanctuary for our ordinance means that the killing of any bird is illegal, and the removal of any mature tree that may nest a native bird would be illegal. And that was one of our first ordinances by the aldermen of Frankville and West Pelzer that they developed. And so that ordinance has continued through as we've updated our code of ordinances in 1974, 1979, 1999, and then most recently in 2021 we just did our second reading, and that ordinance still stays within our code of ordinances as one of our first ones that you'll see.
And before we get too far away from it, how important is the Saluda River to first West Pelzer, and then we'll talk a little bit more about partnerships in a minute, but how important is the development of the Saluda River to this area?
So the Saluda River is something that you can't build. There's not enough engineering funds or engineering practices in the upstate to build a Saluda River through a city. And so a lot of folks talk about finding your waterfall, and Mayor Knox White talks about it all the time. Find your waterfall and build around that. When you don't have a literal waterfall in your city, you find the next closest one. And so the Saluda River, a lot of the communities, mill communities, built their back to that river, and you see us starting to embrace it. And so Pelzer, with multiple landing opportunities for ADA accessible kayak launches, Belton just putting in their first ADA accessible kayak launch, Powdersville having 2, potentially 3 kayak launches. It's vitally important to our local economy as a recreational hub. So Saluda River Rambler, a local kayak company last year, put 1,000 people in the river from Piedmont to Pelzer. And so they passed the 7 acres that we're going to lease. And so our job now is to take that indirect economic impact and make it a direct impact. So when they leave the river in Pelzer at Timmerman Landing, how do we direct them to West Pelzer to spend money? Or frankly, how do we partner with Pelzer to make sure that they can visit both places? Because as driving through town, there's not a literal line painted on the pavement that says welcome to West Pelzer or welcome to Pelzer. We truly are a series of communities, including Williamson's, where we are 3 towns but 1 community.
And that's where I want to go next. I've always cooperated, but now it seems more intentional. When did y'all decide to make this more of an intentional partnership, and how will that benefit all 3 of you?
Yeah. So after Mayor Burgess was elected, it was kind of the running joke, because we were all friends already, and we had always talked to each other, but more in a friendly fashion, that we sat down and kind of started putting our heads together. What are our strengths and weaknesses, and how can we use those opportunities to grow each of our communities? And so when I look at Mayor Ragland, he's very artistic. He's very, everything has to be visual. And so as an artistic director, that's his strong suit. So how do we continue to grow that? Rocky, or Mayor Burgess, is very hands-on. He's the guy who knows the people, knows the folks that he can call to get stuff done. I, as the elder of the 3 mayors, longest serving mayor,
did you ever think that would happen?
I did not think that would happen, but as the elder of the 3, I have the experience. I have a knowledge of government and have kind of a big umbrella approach to how government should operate and how projects operate. I think that's one from being in office. This is my 6th year, 2nd term, but also being able professionally to work in so many communities that I see how they're able to operate and move projects forward. And so when we sat down for our first drink, it was, what's great about you as an individual, what's your mission vision as an individual, but then also what's your mission vision for your city, and how can we make sure that we complement each other and don't compete. And so just today we were talking about recreation. Williamston offers all of the recreational facilities and amenities that all the communities use, but how can we start to partner with them to maybe offer a disc golf course, something that Williamston can offer or doesn't offer that we can complement with, so that their residents come here, likewise our residents go there. There's only about 9% of Williamston residents that participate in Williamston recreation, but there's only about 1% of the remaining 91 that are from Pelzer or West Pelzer. So we've got to think about how we engage our youth in recreational programs, which is why we're looking more towards passive recreation, more trails, more connectivity, more opportunities to get on the river, things that don't, as I refer to it, pay to play.
One of your areas of expertise also, I mean, you're professionally, you're a planner. I mean, you're really, and you're working on the master plan at Dolly Cooper Park, which will affect the whole area. Just give people, just a 30-second update on what y'all hope to do there.
At Dolly Cooper?
Yeah.
So at Dolly Cooper, it's about creating a sense of place and identity, and that's one thing that Powdersville has yearned for in many different ways, whether it's culturally, economic development-wise, or recreation-wise. And so for Dolly Cooper, it's about creating that sense of place. It's embracing the rivers, providing an opportunity for tubing, for kayaking, but it's also about providing some destination playgrounds, whether that's adventure play or zip lining, picnic shelters, continuing the disc golf craze that's there. There's a lot of opportunities to fit a lot of things in that 40-acre facility that will be completely different than what the other municipalities that are close by will be able to offer.
And you're working closely with Anderson County Councilman Jimmy Davis and Wes Cox for this, and within the weeks ahead, y'all be putting this plan out for the public to give feedback.
That's correct. So Councilman Davis and Representative Cox were really instrumental in moving this project forward. And over the past 3 years, they've allocated about $300,000 for improvements already in Dolly Cooper Park. So you see the new baseball field, the new fencing, you'll see new dugouts going up, a new kayak launch, an ADA accessible walking trail of about 1,800 linear feet along the Saluda River. So they're really vested in Dolly Cooper Park and realize the importance both as a local amenity for the Powdersville residents, but also as a regional amenity for the folks that are living on the south side of Greenville, the east side of Easley, and the northern side of Piedmont. It's a destination park.
And it's Anderson's second largest, if you count the Civic Center, it's the second largest park in the county.
It is definitely so. And one of the things that I think Powdersville is starting to think about is culturally, where are they at? And there's a lot of discussion about zoning and land use. And what it comes down to is that Powdersville is again yearning for that sense of place, that downtown connection, that walkability, that recreational amenity that these communities that are the same size that they are already have. So they're recognizing that deficiency in the local government or the local facilities and trying to figure out how to make that happen. And I think that's a nod to Councilman Davis and Representative Cox that they recognize that as well and know that it is much needed within that district.
And getting back to West Pelzer, you should know maybe by next month or the month after what the schedule is going to look like for summer and fall. I mean, we'll be able to announce what's going to happen. I mean, you've got plans in place, but y'all be ready to make announcements.
We'll be definitely ready to make announcements next month about our fall schedule and our winter schedule. Again, coordinating with local DHEC offices and Anderson County Emergency Services about what the opening of facilities will look like or the opening of events. So hopefully in the next month we'll be able to announce a dynamic summer and fall schedule. And yes, your annual yard sale will continue to happen the first Saturday in October, which is the #1 call and question we get at City Hall. So that event will still take place, but there are some really cool events that will be scattered around throughout the year to hopefully make you re-engage with West Pelzer. And if you're a resident here, you've already been out walking around, you see the improvements we've made. And we look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully maskless. We can get past that. We can see each other's smiling faces again.
And finally, you mentioned you've been mayor for 6 years now. Do you have a favorite lesson you've learned in your time as mayor, or something that surprised you, or something that you were really hoping would happen and did? Just what's your favorite thing to kind of drill down on since you've been mayor?
Yeah, so there are two things that I tell every new mayor in the state, and I make it a point to follow all 272 municipal elections so that when there's a new mayor elected, I send them a text message or an email to let them know what I've learned. I've learned two things that I tell all of them. One is from Mayor Joe Riley, who says that a mayor's job is to be the chief storyteller and the chief urban designer. And I think from that, every city has a story, and that story needs to be told in a positive way. But also the fabric of your town is constantly changing, and you need to be ready to design it in such a way that encourages social interaction in the public realms. That means you feel comfortable walking down the sidewalk or comfortable hanging out at a new business. That has to be told. And Mayor Riley taught me that in the Design Institute. The other thing that I email every mayor is that during your first 30 days, you have to do these things. You have to ask your council, what's one thing that you want me to do that we can accomplish together? The other thing you ask is, what's one thing that our constituent base wants me to accomplish within that 30 days? And then you ask your partner or your spouse or your family, what's one thing you want me to accomplish in those 30 days? And then the final thing is you ask yourself, during your first term, what is one thing that you don't think even God could do and it be successful? And so what I think that teaches the newly elected mayors is that it teaches them to ask their council members how they can be involved. It teaches them to ask the constituent base how they can be involved. It teaches them to ask your family, because you're not going to see them as much, how they can be involved. But then it also forces you to think really high level in an umbrella fashion as to what's one thing that you would really want to do, but you don't think you'll ever be able to pull it off. And so for me in West Pelzer, I was not fortunate enough to know that during my first month, and no one texted it to me. And so I look at it now, and I look at my council and ask, what's one thing that we want to do? And we want to grow, and we want to grow smart so that we can expand our police department to have 24-hour coverage, or so that we can offer parks and recreation. That's one thing council wants to do. When I ask my constituent base, they want us to bring back the events. They want to bring back that social interaction, the love of our community in that front porch setting. The thing that my wife wants me to do is delegate more. My wife wants me to be able to pass things off to Paul, our town administrator, or passing off to the chief of police, and not be as worried about day-to-day operations. And the one thing that I don't think even God could do, but he is doing amazing things in West Pelzer, and Williamston, is that he's making us work together better than we ever have. And I think that's vitally important for us to think about over the past 100 years of our history, that we've never worked as close as we are now. And I don't think it's anything that Mayor Burgess is doing, or Mayor Ragland's doing, or Mayor Sanders is doing. It's something much greater than any of the three of us.
And I think one thing that's worth reminding everybody is all the mayors of the cities and townships in Anderson County, those are part-time salaries. They're supposed to be part-time jobs.
They are.
How does that work out?
So it's interesting, because I tease Mayor Burgess that he's the highest paid mayor in Anderson County, but he also spends the most time in City Hall. And so he's acting as their city administrator. It's very interesting, because all of the mayors in the county outside of Mayor Roberts are strong mayor form of government. And so we're engaged day to day in every decision, whether it's from creating the budget all the way down to hiring and firing, or how the trash routes are working out. And so for me, I've been fortunate enough to kind of take a step back, delegate some of those duties, as Mayor Crenshaw has taught me in Pendleton, delegate some of those duties out so that you don't have to make some of those day-to-day decisions that may seem minute at the time, but may have a lasting impact. I'll also say that I was fortunate enough 6 years ago, and God has blessed me that I could do this, but I don't accept the mayor's salary. And so if you look at our annual budget, it is not in there. And so in the next 2 years, when I'm up for election, that budget year, we'll put that mayor's salary back in there, because the new mayor may choose to take that salary, and they should. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of tears. You'll laugh and cry in the same hour as mayor, and that's totally okay. But I've been blessed to not take that salary, and I think it's made me maybe give a little more effort when I wouldn't before. I'd be putting a dollar sign on it.
And I guess the final question is to follow up what you just said. Are you saying now you're not running in 2 years?
So
is this an announcement?
This is not an announcement. So I do believe in term limits, though. I do believe that what we've accomplished in West Pelzer, we have done great things. And it's not because of Mayor Sanders. It's because of a higher power. It's because of constituents coming together and truly working and loving each other. I think the next few years holds a lot of opportunity for West Pelzer, and I would be blessed to get to continue to serve in that role. But also, again, I believe in term limits, and I believe that God has bigger plans for West Pelzer than what we can currently see, and I believe that God has bigger plans than for myself and everyone living in town than what we can currently fathom. And so if I'm blessed with another opportunity, I think West Pelzer will be better because of it.